Hello everyone, it's Shannon here for Hero Arts. In today's video, we are going to create this super adorable Christmas card featuring stamps and dies from the November Hero Studio card kit. We're going to start today with this super cute Peking Animals clear stamp set, which was included in the November Hero Studio card kit of the month. I've pulled the stamp off for the deer and the holly leaves, but as you saw, there are tons of critters on that stamp set, all so cute, as well as a bunch of accessories, but I just again used that holly berry and leaves. I stamped them in intensified black ink, which is a alcohol marker friendly ink, because we're going to do some really basic Copic coloring today. I'm starting out with my lightest shade. I have three kind of tans or browns picked out for this deer. My lightest shade here is E30, and I'm simply going to color around kind of the sides and part of the head and the ears with this really light shade. After I lay that base down, then I'll go on to my medium shade, which is E31. And I'm not coloring quite as far in as I did with that lighter shade, kind of stopping a little short, about a third as far as I did, or 2/3 as far as I did with the previous color, that lighter shade. And then we'll move on to back to blending a little bit with our lighter shade again. That was E30, really quick blend to soften the transition. And now we're on to our darkest shade, which is E35. And again, not going quite as far down into the center body of this deer as I did with the light shade or the medium shade, just about a third as far as I did previously. And then after I lay that darker shade down, then I'll go back through my colors again and kind of blend it out. So here I am with my medium shade, blending out that transition between the medium and dark shade. And once I finish that, I'll go back to my lightest shade and blend it out a little bit more. And after I finished with that, I realized I wanted to darken up some things a little bit more. So I grabbed my darkest shade again and just kind of darkened up some areas on the ear that I think would be the really darkest, like under the deer's arms or at the top of the head where the kind of the fur is kind of folded over a little bit. And once I finished with that, I then blended it out a little bit more here and there and decided I needed even more contrast, so I darkened up some areas a little bit more. So just playing around with the transition, and here I finally got it where I liked it, so I stopped. Now I've grabbed W1, which is kind of a warm gray, and just added a little shadow. I'm not completely coloring the antlers, just adding a little shadow to the bottom side of the antlers. Then for the ears, I'm using that feathered stroke where it's heavier handed when I start and lighten as I lift up with R11. And now we're going to move on to the holly berries and leaves. Starting with the holly berries, going to use 3 reds for this actually, starting with R22. Then I'll move on to R27. And then I will bring in a third, but not quite yet. I jumped to the leaves and I'm starting with YG03 and then moved on to my medium shade for the leaves, which is G07, and then my darkest shade, which is G28. So pretty much, even though they're small, I did still use 3 shades for these. Blended them out a little bit after I put down all 3 of my shades. And now here's that dark red that I decided I wanted to add just to kind of amp it up a little bit more and really create that illusion that these berries are rounded. And then I just went back through my colors and blended out the transition a little bit. Now I'm going to grab the coordinating dies. Love that there's coordinating dies for all the images in that stamp set. So I went ahead and die cut my deer out and that cute little holly sprig that I'm going to use to decorate. And now we're ready to move on to creating the present. So also included in the November card kit are these amazing fancy dies that you can pair up with all the critters. I chose the gift or present one, which has a lid and a base. So I'm going to die cut the bottom of the present and the lid out of some kiwi and shamrock Hero Hues cardstocks. I'm now going to ink blend over the bottom portion of the present, of the shamrock present, and the bottom portion of the lid for that shamrock present in Deep Ocean, just a dark blue. You could use a dark green if you prefer. This is going to make it look a little bit more dimensional, a little bit more interesting. Then I went ahead and fussy cut the ribbon and bow off of the kiwi present, and now I'm just going to adhere these layers, basically paper piece these layers on top of that shamrock present. So we now have like a lighter green bow on our green present, which looks super pretty. Now to step it up a little bit more and add even more interest and dimension, I'm going to color the ribbon with a couple Copic markers that are same tone as the cardstock. So my darker shade is that YG03, which we used earlier for the holly leaves. And then I've grabbed my lighter shade, or a lighter shade, which is YG00, just to kind of blend it out a little bit so it has a smooth gradation. This just helps to make the bow and ribbon look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more three-dimensional, which I think looks nice with our deer, who also looks very three-dimensional with our coloring. So the kit also includes these beautiful Hero Hues cardstocks in pine and cherry. I went ahead and trimmed down one of the sheets in half to create an A2 panel, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm now going to ink blend all the sides of this panel with cranberry core ink, just to darken it up a little bit more and add a little bit more interest to the background, even though this also will draw your eye into our focal point, which will be the deer in the center of this panel. So once I've kind of blended the sides and got that a little bit darker, we'll move on to one more step, or to add some kind of fun texture and interest, and that is some snow. We're going to use this awesome white acrylic spray from Hero Arts. I do only want the splatters though to be at the bottom, the top, so I have just this scrap of paper here protecting the kind of basically the middle section of my panel. And then after I splattered the bottom portion of my panel, I then repositioned that mask to cover that bottom portion so I could just splatter the upper portion. And that just this is kind of just a different way to splatter, so it's not everywhere. And again, just a little bit more interested in that background, and definitely adding a little bit more of a festive touch as well. So now we're going to move on to adding some texture with some tissue paper. So I have this scrap of Christmas tissue paper, and I'm just going to cut a small piece of it here, and then I'll divide it into like 3 little sections. I'm going to use these sections to actually position behind the deer and even a little bit under the deer, so it looks like this gift had tissue paper inside of it and the deer is just kind of surrounded by that. I think it just enhances one, texture and interest, but also the realism of the design, and it's just really fun little touch and very easy to do. So I kind of crumpled up one of my sections of tissue paper and then just adhered it to the back side of the deer, and I'm going to repeat that by crumpling up this other tissue, using a little bit of liquid glue to hold my crumpled tissue together as well as hold it onto the deer die cut. And then I'll finish with this last little piece, and I'm going to add it under the deer's little hooves. So again, it just looks like this deer is popping out of that gift with all that tissue paper kind of surrounding it. Super cute. I felt like that tissue at the bottom here was a little bit too long, so I just cut it down with my scissors. So, because I know I want to put my sentiment down there, and I want to make sure that that's a little bit out of the way and not too busy so that you can't really read the sentiment. Now I went ahead and glued my deer to the gift box, and then I'll finish by gluing that cute little lid to the top of the deer's head, so it really does look like it just kind of popped out of that present. And then we'll finish with a little accent of that holly leaves. I thought that was just a cute little detail to add to the ribbon. And now we're going to wrap this card up first by adhering this panel to the front of an A2 top folding white card base. My acrylic spray is all dry. It dries really quickly. I'm going to grab one of these awesome tags that are included in the November card kit. You get 28 tags. There's 4 different styles, so you have 7 of each style, so a lot to use. You could use them for gift tags as well. I really like the size of them. They're really large, and I think that's so cute on presents to have a really large gift tag. But you can use them on your cards as well. They're great kind of ways to create kind of more focus on your focal point. So I just adhered it to the back to my card front, but did use some foam adhesive to lift it up. Then I adhered my deer on top of it and also added foam adhesive to the deer, so it's popped up as well. And then I did add some foam adhesive to my sentiment. I popped up the right and left sides of the sentiment with double foam adhesive just to give it a little bit more support, because that deer was popped up, or that gift present was popped up. But here is the finished card. Really loved the additional texture and interest the tissue paper adds. It's a fun little thing you can do with that awesome fancy die that's included. But there's so many other fancy dies and so many other critters. There's just so much potential and possibilities with this kit. Lots of fun. Can't wait to see what you guys create.